Welcome to another episode of Cooking with Lewis and Clark.
Today, we're going to make smoked salmon soup, just like Lewis and Clark, 19th century style.
Hi there, welcome to another episode of Cooking with Lewis and Clark. That's Mr. Graham.
And that's Mr. Raymond.
And we're here to make another wonderful recipe, just like the Corps Discovery did way back in the 19th century.
Yep.
And today we're talking about 1805-ish, when the Corps made it out of the Bitterroot Range and into what we would now call Oregon, Washington territory, where they ran into Nez Perce. See, these guys were hungry. And I'm not talking middle school kid hungry after fifth period. That's really hungry, but
yeah.
I'm going beyond that. They had exhausted any game they had. They had eaten all their salted pork, and the portable soup, gone. They ate it all.
Wow. They're pretty desperate.
Yeah, they are desperate. So they run to the Nez Perce, and they provided them with
Salmon.
Oh dear Lord.
I know. Neither one of us were looking forward to this today.
Wait a second. Instead of salmon, fish sticks.
Have you seen this show? We can't do that in this show. I'm sorry.
Please.
No, we have to stick to the recipe. We have to stick to. If I can't use a foreman, you can't eat Gordon's fish sticks.
Bet me we'll eat Gordon's fish sticks before this is over.
All right, I bet you. Go ahead.
Oh no, like I said, they've got salmon. So go ahead from there.
All right, a salmon. To a European eye, seeing a native people's lives revolve around the migration of buffalo or the planting of crops and harvesting of crops was not unusual. But seeing a people like the Native Americans out west, whose lives somewhat revolved around the spawning of salmon, was very unusual. And this is what I'd be eating here. Unfortunately for Lewis and Clark, the European diet didn't consist a lot of salmon, and so eating as much salmon as they did not agree with them.
Yeah, I heard they got like wretchedly sick from the amount of salmon that they ate.
Very, very sick.
I think I might get wretchedly sick from the amount of salmon I'm about to eat.
I hope not.
Okay.
I hope not.
I hope not too. So anyway, if we're going to make smoked salmon soup like Lewis and Clark did, what you need to have some salmon. I got that at the salmon aisle, the Giant, local supermarket. You need to have a little bit, push it over here, a little what?
Salt and pepper.
Salt and pepper. You need to have, this is watercress. Watercress is kind of like, if you don't know what that is, it's a leafy thing. It's kind of like arugula. It's a leaf, but it's got a little spice kick to it. It's kind of good. Arugula. And Lewis and Clark would have used just water. And we are cheating just a tad bit, just to give this a little bit more flavor. We got some chicken broth there. We're going to do that. So, if anything, maybe it'll taste like chicken.
Oh, I hope so.
So, recipe is very simple. What we're going to do, Mr. Graham, is we're just going to take in my brand new handy dandy iron skillet pot, put our liquid in there. We are going to, it says to cut this up into chunks.
Okay.
So we're just simply going to cut this up into little chunks, and we're just going to add the salmon to that. I don't know how else to do this.
Yeah.
I wish Mr. Gimby were here to help us with the cutting.
Oh, he's an expert. Yes,
he was.
Yeah.
No, we don't need to peel. We don't need to peel. We're not peeling it. We're just cutting it into chunks.
Watch those fingers.
Cut that like that, like that. I'd like to give us a shout out to our cameraman today, because this is a first for Cooking with Lewis and Clark. This is the first time we actually have student participation.
Mm-hmm.
Not only is my neighbor Brandon Shirk my neighbor, but currently he's in Mr. Graham and I's class.
Yeah.
And so it's the first time that we have a student participation in Cooking with Lewis and Clark. So thank you, Brandon.
Yeah, thank you.
And guess what you get when we're done, Brandon?
What?
Fish sticks.
Nope, you're going to taste this.
Okay.
He loves history so much.
Okay, so we're just going to add that there. The salt and the pepper, that comes later on.
All right.
And we're going to put this on the fire, and we're going to let that, do you mind getting the lid off there for me? And the thought process is we're going to put this on the fire, let it boil. Once it's boiling,
Let's put this on the side.
yeah, once it's boiling, then we have to let it cook for 15 minutes. So we'll be back.
Okay.
Once it's boiling, we'll show you the boiling product, and then we got to wait 15 minutes, add everything else to it, and it should be, well,
Fish soup.
fish soup. We'll see in a little bit. Hey, you know what? I had a little bit of a brain fart. We forgot one of the ingredients. It's not that big of a deal, because literally just put this on here 2 minutes ago. There goes the smoke right towards Mr. Shark again.
Yeah, it
But
loves them.
they would have included onions in this also, and so we have our onions cut up. We are just going to take our lid off and dump those in there. And so the water, or the chicken broth, and the onions, and the soup, and the salmon ought to start boiling. When it does, we'll be back. All right. Thank you. Well, Mr. Graham, let's see if we're boiling here and see what we got.
Let's see.
Oh yeah.
It's boiling
That's
away.
boiling. Can I have the spoon? that weapon of choice over there? Actually, the wooden spoon
wooden
would be good.
Okay.
Just have the wooden spoon.
Yep.
My mom used to hit me with when I was bad.
Oh, okay.
We got boiling. We got the salmon. We got the onions. The water. Well, chicken broth. So now we have to let this sit in here for 15 minutes. Basically, we're going to cover it, reduce it to low heat.
Low heat. Well, okay.
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 And then let it boil here for 15 minutes, and then we'll come back with the next step.
Mm-hmm.
We are back, and it's time to add our salt and pepper. And we'll let Mr. Graham push that right
it in there. Yeah.
Okay.
Push it real good.
There you go, Mr. Graham.
Push that in there.
And I'm going to set my lid here, and I'm going to come over here and get my watercress. I'm going to add the watercress. I'm going to add that in there. And Mr. Graham, you just stir that around a little bit.
A little bit. Now, one thing Lewis and Clark found interesting about the salmon, if I can add this,
Yeah, go ahead.
is interesting about salmon is salmon when they breed, when they spawn, they swim back up river, lay their eggs, spawn, and then they die, which sounds really sad. But it's all part of the circle of life. Their bodies decompose and add nutrients back to the soil, which adds to the health of the river, and then the cycle continues, which they found kind of interesting.
Science.
Yeah, science and history.
There we go. Very good. We'll be back in 2 minutes, and we'll taste the finished product. Well, Mr. Graham, it's time for salmon soup. Now, I got to tell you, before we eat this, and I've been dissing this the entire time and bashing it, and I'm really not looking forward to this. I'm going to put out there, I'm just not a fish guy. You know, I'm really not a salmon guy. You know, maybe it was my mom cooking the salmon cakes in the kitchen for my father when I was a kid, and just that smell got to me. I don't know. So I'm not a salmon guy, so I'm just putting that out there for all of you people who love salmon and think this is going to be the greatest thing since, well, I don't know, fish sticks. So, yeah, they are good. So anyway, let's give this a shot. Mr. Graham, and give me your bowl.
All right. Yeah, I don't mind salmon. I've never had boiled salmon before, so this will be
So
interesting.
let's get a little bit more broth in there for you. Okay. And you want to give me my bowl? And I was telling Mr. Graham, I am not going to cheat. I could very easily just kind of drink this broth in front of you and tell you how yummy it is. But I am going to get a piece of that salmon in my mouth. Oh, Mr. Graham.
Yes.
We were talking about student participation. Shirk, do you want some of this?
You want some?
No?
Are you sure? He seems pretty sure.
All right, well, Mr. Graham, here, smoked salmon soup. Bon appetit. Here we
Cheers.
go. Cheers. Yeah. Oh.
That's pretty good, actually. Yeah, I don't mind salmon. I do like salmon. It's
You
not
know-
bad.
Honestly, it's not horrible.
It's not bad. No.
Okay, and to prove it, if it was horrible, I wouldn't go back for a second one. So here we go. It's hot.
At the risk of sounding corny, it doesn't taste fishy. If that makes sense. It doesn't really taste
No,
fishy.
it doesn't taste fishy. Maybe it's the onions. Maybe it's the fact that we didn't use water and we used some chicken broth.
Yeah.
But
Oh.
it doesn't have that deep salmon taste that I remember my mom those salmon patties.
No, it doesn't. It's pretty good.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, smoked salmon soup, just like Lewis and Clark in 1805.
Yep. Not too bad.
Hey, thank you very much, Mr. Graham. I appreciate it as always.
My
Mr.
pleasure.
Shirk, thank you very much. And as always, we thank you all for being here with us. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
If you want to make smoked salmon soup just like Lewis and Clark, here's what you need and what you need to do.
Just read really fast.
Oh, yeah. That smells really good.
And Lewis and Clark never had so good.
They didn't have fish.
Nice. All right. I've been looking forward to this all afternoon.
Gentlemen, dig in.